Now, this is the type of information we've been waiting for years. Remember 2-3 years ago, I discussed this. I said that I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these utility bank coin companies, DLT companies, would try to become or attempt to become banks. Oh, people don't understand what's about to happen. They don't understand the hold that crypto is about to get within the US, and it will spread like wildfire throughout the world, which will bring a flood of value. Wait, you're saying, Mick, come on, just tell us what's going on. This article is titled Fintechs and Crypto Firms Get Banking Ambitions. Listen to this because it gets potent. It says here, a friendlier regulatory environment has cryptocurrency companies, multiple, and fintechs trying to become banks. You don't see the golden age opening up? Trying to become? They're going to. I don't know how many. I don't know how fast this is going to happen. They're going to accomplish the mission. And there's going to be a flood of capital coming into DLT products. The legitimacy of DLT products will go through the roof. Partnerships and deals will go through the roof. And crypto, some of these top bank coin companies, utility coin companies, DLT companies, I have no doubt. But I could be wrong, not financial advice. I believe they'll get in on this. I do. Look at their trajectory. Look at everything they've gotten involved in, from RWA to crypto custody. Why would they not also have something or attempt something like this? But let me read a little bit more. It says this, as Reuters wrote in an analysis Tuesday, March 18th, companies that had been hoping. So this has been planned for a long time. They've known they wanted to do this, but couldn't before because of the regulatory environment. And I said that was holding a lot back. But wait, they're going to tell you exactly what I've been saying. Just wait. You're going to see. This is such a potent article. As Reuters wrote in an analysis Tuesday, March 18th, companies that had been hoping to expand see the current political environment in the USA as their chance to obtain licenses that regulators had either been slow or reluctant to issue. Here's a quote. It says, quote, "We have seen a lot more interest. We are working on several applications now," unquote, several. And this is at the beginning. You think it's not at the beginning? I know a lot of people will go against and say, we're not at the beginning. Yes, we are. Wait, they're going to tell you. They're going to establish that for you. This is real potent information. Wait. This is coming from Alexandra Steinberg Barrage. So now you have a name to put to who made the quote. This is a partner at law firm Troutman Pepper Locke, and they're doing an interview with Reuters. Okay, that's merely one reference. Let's go now. This is the potent part. Listen to this. Because it tells you if this is happening now, it's going to increase. Wait. It says this, quote, "Is it in full swing yet? I don't think so. Our clients are being cautiously optimistic. They're waiting for things to settle," unquote. Really? Folks, this next year or two, because, things take time. I don't have a timeline on these things anymore. But they're happening so quickly. Keep your eyes open. I'm trying to gather all my thoughts so that I can speak to you as directly and succinctly and clearly as possible. Okay. So I might pause a little bit here and there. I'm trying, but keep your eyes open. This information could be potent. The catalyst could be major. Just think about it. If you're one of the first people to get in on that information, right? And you're making certain moves because you know that these, let's say certain companies are trying to become banks or, they achieve a certain license. That could be powerful if you're a mover and a shaker. Very powerful. And it's powerful whether you're short term or long term. There's no way around this. But let's keep going. It says here, sources, multiple. I know you're like, sources that we know is multiple. No, I have to say it. Make it clear. Sources who are working on potential license applications say preparations for bank charters really, have increased significantly. I'm telling you right now, that legacy system is, this is why they're all panicking right now. 100%. They have to congeal, but some of them are behind. That's what the articles were saying that we just recently covered. You see how everything fits together like a puzzle? If you miss one piece of the puzzle, you may be lost. But it all fits together. That's why they're panicking right now. They must congeal right now. If they don't, they're going to lose their spots. Why? Because what the DLT companies, utility coin companies bring to the table is so advanced, so potent. The legacy system and their anachronistic thinking and their anachronistic ways, outdated is what it means. They can't compete with us. They will lose a lot of money. That'll come to us. They'll lose a lot of clients. That will come to us. And they won't be able to participate. Even if they do try to catch up, it'll be too late. They won't get to participate in the sizable way that they would have been had they actually done things on time. That's why you have the central banks telling them to hurry up and congeal, right? We read it. That's why you have the businesses crying out for DLT. New technology. Oh, woe is us. We need new technology to catch up. Things are about to heat up. If this doesn't tell you, I don't know what would. So it continues on here. It says, though it's not clear how many companies will follow through, it's also not clear and couldn't possibly be clear how many are going to attempt this. So it's just something very, very powerful and interesting to keep in mind, especially with if you watch the activity of a lot of these bank coin companies expanding over the last year and a half. I mean, they've done so much work. So if this were to happen, imagine what the effect would be on the price of whatever native crypto is involved. You know, of course, it's all speculation right now, but this is actually happening. The only portion that's speculation is who is going to do this, right? And then, of course, following that is how high that price could go if you're going to have lots of capital and lots of capital flowing through the chain. But also remember, that with all these mechanisms that they have on these native crypto chains, they can do a lot more than a regular bank, a lot more. Then also here, it talks about the benefits of it, where it says they might also, if this happens, right, if any of these companies actually does become a bank, you know, that they might also see their capital and business cost go down. So there's benefits to this for sure. But also you can look at it as cons on the other side, where they'll be under more regulatory scrutiny. But I think the pros outweigh the cons. You want to be honest. And I think there's a lot of the landscape that they could dominate and take, because the traditional banks have been doing a terrible job. I just saw another article the other day where some bank person took some money from people's accounts. And now this is starting to spread around, things like that. So the banking industry's reputation is at an all-time low. So anyone new coming in to provide something new services, especially when it comes to providing things like digital wallets or allowing people to custody their own value, that's going to be extremely powerful because customers want more power. They want not just power. Let me not phrase it that way. They want more control over their value. They want to be able to increase the value of whatever they have just sitting around instead of letting it die in a savings account. And who are they going to trust more when it comes to these new offerings like lending, like staking, like delegating? Are they going to trust some outsiders who are just merely using the technology but are not very familiar with it? Or are they going to trust the people that literally created it? They're going to trust the people that know that literally created it and can enhance everything over time, right? I mean, they can hit the ground running because, like I said, when it comes to staking and delegation, there's no way the banking industry competes when it comes to annual percentage yield. No way at all whatsoever. Regular people will love it. They'll go for it. So this is something to keep in mind. It says here, it continues, this uptick in licensing attempts follows a plunge in the number of bank charters approved by U.S. regulators, with just 4 applications being approved in 2023, a record low, the report added, citing S&P Global data. Yes, but once again, at least on the DLT side, the fintech side, the environment is becoming very, very friendly, number one, to these companies. Number two, you have every single large businesses, small businesses, banks crying out for DLT. There's never been anything like it. Nothing. This hunger for it, this technology that they need in order to survive. There's never been anything like it. That's a huge difference. So you can't compare. I mean, sure, let's keep this information in mind, but you can't compare 2023 to now. No way at all. The SEC is vastly different now. You can see that happening. They're removing all of these different barricades as we speak. Listen, the golden age door creaks open a little bit further once more. Each day we're seeing it go open a little bit more, and that brings us closer to that first utility explosion. It says here, as Payments wrote earlier this month, there has been a groundswell of support in Washington recently. It says for de novo or newly chartered bank. Newly chartered bank activity. There you go. All right. So we're going to see this accelerate. We'll see how who's going to be involved. My apologies. I had to go run and handle something, and it just threw my mind way off. That ever happened to you? So now I have to collect all my thoughts together once again. It's like once I'm focused on something, I like to get to it, stick to that, and deal with that only, and do it and give it my all, give it my best. And then when something else major comes out of nowhere and I have to shift my focus, it sort of scrambles everything else that I was going to do. You know, that anybody else experience that? And I dislike when that happens, but I had to go deal with something very quickly. So now let's move on here. We have more activity. That wasn't the only thing. Here's something else to watch. All right. Now, this article is titled Korea's Tokenized Deposit CBDC trials to start with 100,000 people in April. That's what's important. So their CBDC trials in Korea will begin in April. This is stuff we have to watch. Why? Because Ripple, right, is heavy in South Korea. XRP, they claim in a multitude of articles, look this up on Google or whatever search engine you use. But XRP, they claimed in multiple articles, is the most loved crypto in South Korea. All right. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, well, Mick, how does that tie into a CBDC? Because the CBDCs are going to flow out of that system. The value of the CBDC is going to flow out of that system into other systems, right? These systems are like trees. There's multiple branches. Then on top of that, there's always the potential for them to utilize something like XRP as a bridge currency because they clearly understand the technology. There's going to be a lot of flow back and forth between whoever issues a CBDC and the other dominant systems that are in those regions. And once again, XRPL is major in that region. All right. And there's going to be holding limits, probably like all the other countries are doing with their CBDCs. So you can't hold them long. Most people also, when the ones that have been issued, like let's take it, for example, China, the people are not holding that. They're liquidating that CBDC very quickly and getting it out of their CBDC accounts and putting it somewhere else. So sure, it could end up in an RLUSD, but I doubt it because South Korea loves XRP 100%. Like I said. At one time, that was their most traded token. Remember that? It had overtaken Bitcoin. I don't know if it's still that way, but at one time, that's what they claimed in articles. OK, so that can make its way probably into XRP more likely than RLUSD. So this definitely could be major. So let's read a little bit more here. It says in 2023, the Bank of Korea announced plans for a trial that would combine tokenized deposits and wholesale central bank digital currency. More recently, the central bank confirmed that the 7 banks that will take part. Now, Business Korea reported that the trial involving 100,000 consumers will run for 3 months starting in early April. Then once more, now that the world is becoming more crypto friendly, how much work, how many partnerships, how many deals will be possible for companies like Ripple in South Korea? Do they provide custody services? You know, does XRP act as a bridge currency? Is anything tokenized? You know, is it RWA tokenization happen there and come to the XRPL, thus affecting XRP's price? Does Ripple offer some sort of digital wallet or hard wallet? Maybe, I don't know. Which with every XRPL account, you have to have an allotment of XRP that affects the price. If we're going to have this occurring globally, so these are all things that I'm keeping in mind as I'm watching all of this activity, which, like I said, continuously each day, we're seeing more and more positive activity. Now, this is interesting here. This is interesting. It says the online merchants taking part include Hyundai, Home Shopping, and Dongyo, if I'm pronouncing that right. Then it says, while mainstream merchants include 7-Eleven. That's interesting. Now, remember, and I don't know how this is going to play out in the future, but remember that at least in Japan, there is someone who owns a massive amount of 7-Elevens that is also tied to, I believe, EveryNet. And EveryNet is tied to Stellar, right? EveryNet is tied to Stellar. But that's just something that I noticed that came to mind when I saw 7-Eleven. Every time I see 7-Eleven, I think that. But we'll see how that works out in the future, if it's anything at all. So you have that going on. And then let's go here. All right. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be today. This was a tough day. I'll say that this was a tough day. So now let's go here. Let's get a little Bitcoin news in before the end of the video. So this article is titled BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF records 42.3 million daily flow. Listen, I knew this was going to happen. The big companies, they want that Bitcoin. They're going to acquire it any way that they can. And I'm going to tell you once again, you don't have to agree with me. I'm very wary of anything mainstream media says. I don't trust them at all, because they can be bought. Unfortunately, I mean, no disrespect, but they can be bought. There's money in their pockets. And I think a lot of what we've been seeing, them trying to drive the price of certain things down. I mean, other than that, why would they be so doom and gloom? Because they can get views anytime they want to get views. They can obtain views and clicks. They have the connections to do such a thing. It's easy for them. So they don't need the sensationalism. So why else would you be so doom and gloom when you know that the positive catalysts all remain? They know this. Those positive catalysts are so strong that long term dominates over the short term thinking right now. This is why all the big companies are going long term. They believe in that Bitcoin price skyrocketing long term. So it just screams to me that there must be a catalyst. There must be a cause for the mainstream media to every time Bitcoin dips or Bitcoin corrects, it goes down a little bit. In my mind, and I don't hold myself above anyone else, but I trust myself. In my mind, it's no big deal. I'm looking at everything. I'm trying to be as fair, as balanced, as logical as possible. And it's no big deal from what I'm seeing. And the big companies' activities are showing it's no big deal to them either. But the mainstream media says, oh, crypto is bleeding out. There's a bear market. Crypto is over. Crypto is dead. I mean, I've seen so many negative headlines. It looks like a setup to me. It looks like a setup. If Bitcoin goes to $200,000, $150,000, whatever it's going to do, it's looking like it's going to be significant. Each day, we're learning that not only new catalysts every other day, but the catalysts that already remain, if you're reading, doing real research, you're looking at real information, the catalysts that exist are getting bigger and bigger each day. More potent. By bigger, I mean more potent each day. Another thing I want to say is watch out for shock pops in Bitcoin's price in the future. Shock pops. What I mean by that is I've saw articles like this, okay, where you have places like South Korea. This is what it says. I'm going to read you this article. Okay. I was going to save it for the end of the video, but I need to put it in here. South Korea dismisses establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Listen, folks, I just don't see this being permanent. I just don't. There's no way. Their reasoning. Let me give you their reasoning before I state what I'm going to state. And it all ties into what I was saying about the first article. It says South Korea dismisses adding Bitcoin to its foreign exchange reserves, citing extreme volatility and failure to meet IMF standards for reserves. Extreme volatility, as all of the large asset managers have told everyone, all right, is negated by the extreme lift in price that they're going to benefit from when they sell, and they will. Who knows how much they're going to sell? They're going to keep a little because it's going to be rinse and repeat. But they need that capital. There's so much value to be made from that. There's no way anyone logical can turn away from that. You know, maybe circumstance can turn you away from it. You say, well, I don't have enough capital to get in heavy. That's understandable. But we're talking about banks. We're talking about nations. No way any logical entity such as that is turning away from this explosion that's going to happen. And so then let's address the other catalyst they're talking about here. And then it's going to all make sense. Trust me, I'm going to pull it together. It says, and failure to meet IMF standards for reserves. No one right now, most countries are not going by IMF standards because the IMF itself has been quite rogue. The IMF itself has been highly detrimental to a multitude of countries, which is why they've been turning against what the IMF has set as a standard. We've seen the rebellion against the IMF for the last 3 years. Even countries who refuse to pay the IMF in their SDRs or the traditional currencies and just say, you know what, we're going to pay in crypto. We've seen this, but nonetheless, even if you disagree with me on that, and you could, I'm not upset about that. The IMF catalyst here and this extreme volatility catalyst here are not enough for countries, in my opinion, to stay out for too long once that price starts going up. That's number one. Number two, the bigger countries are going to get in their ear. Not only that, they're going to get in their ear about Bitcoin because for some reason, all of the major countries, they like to follow in each other's footsteps. They just do. And they like to impress upon each other. It's like this weird peer pressure type of thing. That's number three. Or is number two or three? One of them. That's the next thing. I think they're going to jump in later. I do. And also, a lot of these figures who are in charge oftentimes change. I don't know when the next changes happen in South Korea, but minds always change. One is exchanged for the other. This person gets voted out. This person retires. New people come in. That can change. So when that happens, if we have a bunch of these countries jump in later, that's an extra catalyst. You get what I'm saying? That's an extra boost in the price. If they say, hey, we have to jump in and acquire some of this. How is this any different than the early days of gold? Did you see what happened then? Because at that time, before they took everything off the gold standard and they forced people to sell their gold, people were using gold like it was dollars back then, right? I mean, at least the value of it at one point. And that didn't stop these entities from taking it over. Now all of them have gold. I don't see it being any different with Bitcoin, but I also hold out the possibility that this is a certain strategy. I do. I don't think they want people to become too bullish. I believe that with all of my spirit. And so I think by design, some of these countries are going to be like, no, we don't want a Bitcoin reserve, knowing later on that they're going to get in. But it keeps the bullishness, I won't say to a minimum, but it doesn't allow it to grow to its full potential. So it's something I'm watching out for. There's no way the U.S., all these large asset managers around the globe want Bitcoin, but some countries are going to be like, oh, no Bitcoin because of the IMF. No way. There's a game being played here. This is chess. So, I mean, you can let me know what you think about that. So that's where we're going to stop. We're going to stop for today. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.